All right, welcome back, everybody. 8:44 is the time. Companies reportedly paid about $5 million for Super Bowl ads this year. And if you're watching last night's big game, you know some stuck out while others fell flat, right? So this morning, I'm joined by Scott Battishill from Curator with a closer look at which ads really hit the mark. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Well, let's start off. I mean, what were the ads that you thought were great?
There were a lot. So we're going to talk about 4 today.
Okay.
And the fun thing this year was, if you recall last year, the cultural context and conversation was all around politics.
Right.
And so the spots were pretty serious as a result. And this year, we kind of reverted back to fun.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about 4. The first one, hopefully, we're going to jump in and talk about Tide and what was special about that.
Let's go and take a brief look.
Yeah, just your typical Super Bowl car ad. Right?
Or a hilarious beer ad.
Or whatever ad this is.
Whatever.
So it kind of makes fun of other ads.
Yeah, well, the thing that was so brilliant about this spot strategically, it was fantastic, is that so they make fun of what we're kind of used to seeing in those spots.
Yeah.
And then they sort of introduce themselves, right? So it's a Tide spot. And then they had multiple spots throughout the game.
Yeah.
And so what started to happen was they kind of hijacked the entire game. So by about the third quarter, almost every spot that ran, you were kind of wondering if it was going to be a Tide spot again, right?
Right,
So
exactly, because you wouldn't know.
Exactly.
Know.
I mean, like all of them, they were fantastic.
Yeah, this is great. Another commercial I thought was great was the Alexa losing her voice. If we have that,
Alexa, how far is Mars?
Oh, how far is Mars? Well, how am I supposed to know? I've never been there. This guy want to go to Mars. For what? There's not even oxygen there.
Alexa, set the mood. So the premise of this is that Alexa loses her voice, then you have other actors filling it, which I thought was just absolutely clever.
It was fantastic. It's our local retailer doing a Super Bowl spot, but it was a really fantastic sort of traditional Super Bowl spot. It was big celebrities, and it was humorous, and it was fun.
Yeah.
But they did a great job of reminding you why you use an Echo in your home. And then I thought the thing that was really smart was, by using these celebs and then hearing her voice at the end, it almost cements what it's supposed to sound like, right? So it was a really well done Super Bowl spot.
One ad I didn't see was this next Budweiser ad, and we can talk a little bit about that if we see a clip right here.
And the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long.
So it looks like they're showing like a more human angle when it comes to this.
And so Budweiser is kind of a perennial Super Bowl champion, right? I mean, every year we're always talking about Clydesdales and puppies, and every year we're talking about Budweiser. And what they got so right this year was, the tone and tenor of the entire Super Bowl, sort of all the spots running back to back, were funny, and they were big, and they were loud. And then a spot like this comes in and the room gets quiet, right? And it reminds you of sort of what happened over the course of last year and how they helped, and it makes you feel good about the brand.
It doesn't always have to be funny or exciting. It could be really a heartfelt moment for ad agencies, for sure. And finally, the last ad we want to talk about in terms of ads that stuck out was this pretty funny touchdown celebrations ad. Check this one out. That is just hilarious. Eli Manning, Odell Beckham there.
It was great.
Recreating Dirty Dancing there. What made this ad stand out, besides the obvious?
It was fun. I mean, it was the NFL's had sort of a tough year, right? When you think about all the things that happened to them over the course of the year. And so this was a fun way to remind people why they're so great, why we love them, the touchdown dances. It was just, and in the context of all the other spots, it just felt right. They did a really nice job.
Yeah. What do you think this means for future Super Bowl ads? I mean, last year you talked about how this was, it was more of a serious tone. This time it meant more fun. I mean, what do you think, if you can predict into next year's Super Bowl, what's it going to be like then?
It's tough. So as marketers, we're always sort of gauging the cultural conversation, and for the age demo that we're representing, right? So if I'm representing Mountain Dew, it's going to be a younger demo. If it's Budweiser, it's an older demo. So we're trying to get a sense of what are people talking about around that age group, and then creating something that lives inside of that space. So it's always going to be different.
And then lastly, the commercials that didn't stand out. I mean, there were a lot of them that were just kind of like flat, but what stuck out in your mind for that?
Well, there's a couple. You know, one, I'm a believer that if we're not talking about them right now, they lost, right? I mean, you're spending upwards of $5 million just for the time alone, let alone the actors and the production and the ad agency and all the bit.
Yeah.
So if we're not talking about you lost. But also, I thought Squarespace in particular did a really poor job of not demonstrating what the product was even about. You know, so that was a loss on my is what I think as well.
Interesting. Scott, thanks for discussing some commercials with us. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thanks for having us on here this morning.